Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. You're probably wondering what the vehicle is that I decided to buy, and if you're on my Instagram, you've kind of already gotten a little teaser of what it is. So we're going to talk about why I chose this vehicle. We're going to go through the decision-making process that I went through, kind of that led me up to this decision. And then after that, we'll talk about the modifications that I've done to it already. And it's only been 3 weeks since I bought it. So no surprise, it's a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, the Unlimited. So we got the 4-door. It is a 2020 with about 44,000 miles on it. So bought it used. Pretty decent deal. All the work that's been done to it, I did almost all of it myself. It came basically bone stock. It was just a bone stock Rubicon. So we'll get into the modifications here later, but first I want to kind of tell you guys why I made this decision. So all right, so let's kind of go over the decision-making process of why I kind of went down this road of choosing a Jeep. Savannah's standing right behind the camera, and it's starting to rain again more. If I could just get a break from the rain, like 20 minutes, that would be really nice. But basically it all started about 4 weeks ago. Me and Savannah were in Ouray, just doing a little off-roading. We were doing a lot of hiking and stuff. I was gonna make a video off this hiking trail that we did, but I ended up forgetting my drone, and so a lot of the footage I wanted to capture, I wasn't able to capture, so no video there. But towards the end of the trip, we were in Ouray, and we were just at one of the bars, kind of on the rooftop, just hanging out, drinking some beers, just enjoying the scenery. And I just see Jeep after Jeep after Jeep after Jeep after Jeep. All you ever saw in that town was Jeeps. All you ever saw on Telluride was Jeeps. Driving on the road, all the trails, all I ever saw was Jeeps. I saw probably, and I was keeping count actually, I probably saw about 3 Toyotas, you know, mixed between a 4Runner and Tacoma, and then I didn't see one single ZR2 the whole time. And this is, you know, in probably the second most popular place to 4-wheel drive is, you know, in the San Juan Mountain Range, Telluride, Ouray area. So if there's any place that people are going to be 4-wheeling, it's going to be here. And it was 99.9% Jeeps. And I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, you know, like maybe these guys all are onto something, right? I started thinking about the issues I've had with my truck recently with, you know, breaking 3 CV axles. Spoiler alert, I broke another CV axle on my Oregon trip, and I had to fix it like kind of on the spot on the beach. And so just IFS for me is just not cutting it. And then kind of that paired with the issues I had on Wheeler Lake where the engine was just, you know, you floor the engine. I'm on the obstacle. I've got myself up. I position myself really well to make it up this obstacle, and then the engine just won't put out. No power, no nothing, and then just having these weird power issues where the gear ratios are off, the crawl ratio, or whatever you want to call it, is just off, even though I had the gears in the differential changed. And so that really kind of bothered me as well. And you know, I'm not hating on the ZR2, you know, I've had that truck for a long time, 6 years now almost, and I put over 100,000 miles on it, and I've made a ton of videos of all the crazy stuff that I've done with it. And so you're probably wondering, well, why, you know, if the ZR2 was such a great off-road truck, why'd you decide to go get a Jeep? Well, the big reason I decided to get a Jeep was for some of the same stuff we talked about in my 100,000 mile review video, but primarily I just wanted something that was a straight axle in the front, and right now Jeep is the only company that makes a vehicle straight axle from the factory. I mean, even the Broncos are all IFS, which I think was a mistake on their part. That's just my opinion, but I mean, people were hoping, I think, for straight axles with those Broncos, and they would have been a lot cooler. So right now there's nothing that competes with Jeep. Jeep is the only company that's making a straight front axle, and it's just so easy to work on. I mean, I bought this truck, or this Jeep, 3 weeks ago. Within that time, I was able to order every single part that I could possibly need. They were all available, all in stock. The aftermarket support is just crazy amazing. The parts are cheaper on top of that. So all this stuff was cheaper than any modification, similar modification I've had to do to the ZR2. And then on top of that, I got it within a few days, and then I was able to just install it all by myself in my driveway. And it was a lot easier to work on than anything I've done on the ZR2. And you might say in the comments, yeah, well, I work on my ZR2 and it took me 15 minutes to do this and to do that. And that's great. But I mean, I've worked on both, and I'm not an expert, and I'm a little slower than probably your average person on doing this kind of stuff. But it's probably because I don't have the right tools, and it's also my first time. So I'm trying to like do things with not the best tool. I have a tool, but it's not the best tool for the job, and that equates to a lot more time. But it's just been easier. It's easier to work on. It's simpler. It's stronger. It's beefier. I mean, the tie rods on this thing, they're this thick versus the tiny little tie rods on an IFS. You know, the axles are way bigger than the tiny little CV axles on these IFS systems. And so it's just a lot more heavy duty, a lot easier to work on yourself. And to me, that's really, really valuable, because for the first time in my off-road career, I actually enjoyed working on this Jeep. Like, I probably spent 24 labor hours working on this Jeep, and the whole time it was just, I'd come home from work and I go sit out in my driveway and work for 6 hours or 5 hours or however long until the daylight went away, and just try to get things done. And I was never really that upset or frustrated with anything. It just felt calming, relaxing. I'd sit down, I'd drink a beer or drink some coffee and watch my little YouTube video of some professional mechanic like going step by step of how to do it. And that's another thing, is there's a million videos of how to install this stuff on your Jeep on YouTube. But if you were to try to look up like the same how do I do this for a ZR2, there's like maybe one video if you're lucky, and it's kind of a pretty bad video, leaving out a lot of there's a lot of gaps and stuff in the video. So you really have to just kind of figure things out on your own. And so versus a Jeep, you got some professionally done video that's an hour and a half long, going over step by step in detail, everything you need to do just to get everything installed. So, I mean, that's really the biggest reason, is Jeeps are just better rock crawlers than any type of IFS system. And they're just easier to work on. They're easier to find parts. They're easier to find aftermarket support. And another thing that's kind of a side note, I like my ZR2. I think it looks really good, but there's like certain angles of the ZR2 that like it doesn't look good. Like, it has its good angles and it has its bad angles. But with this Jeep, I don't think there's a single bad angle on this thing. I mean, it looks good from every single angle I've ever looked at it. So, that's just a plus. And just how easy it was for me to get on 37s and be completely ready to go wheel, without breaking anything. So I'm on 37s, and I've done everything I need to do to make sure the vehicle is kind of going to function properly, from gears, suspension, caster. I fixed all that stuff. It took me 2-3 weeks, and I installed almost all of it myself, except for the gears and the bushings. So, I mean, it's just kind of like a testament to how easy it is to work on this vehicle. So I'm just kind of tired of like swimming upstream with the ZR2, where I could just kind of coast downstream a little bit with this Jeep. And I'm not hating on, like I said, I'm not hating on the ZR2. I'm going to kind of turn that truck into basically a day-to-day workhorse type of truck. I'm going to take that tent off. I'm going to take the bed rack stuff off, and I'm going to use that as a truck, and I might go wheeling and camping with it still for sure. But that's another thing I want to lean into when I talk about the modifications for this, is I'm really trying to go really light. The focus is wheeling off-roading, and half the time I prefer to sleep inside the vehicle anyways than sleeping in the tent. So I'm not getting a rooftop tent, I'm not getting a bed rack or any of that. It's just going to keep it really kind of clean and simple. I want to make sure it looks good. I want to make sure I'm light. We do have the heavy duty springs in the back, so we can carry a little bit of weight, but other than that, we're just going to focus on rock crawling and just just basic roughing it camping. And I don't even think it's roughing it, because I'm not sleeping on the ground in the dirt, I mean, sleeping inside of a nice warm Jeep with a sound system and heat and all that stuff. I can make my coffee in there. I mean, that's not really roughing it, in my opinion. But I know a lot of people have issues sleeping kind of in a chair like that. For me, I just don't really have an issue doing that. I mean, in the Army, we did it all the time. We'd be sleeping in a vehicle with all your kit and body armor on, and you have to sit there, and you got your helmet, and you're using your helmet to kind of lean up against the hard metal, and that's how you'd sleep, because you have to be ready to go fight in the middle of the night when OP4 comes in and they attack the camp. And then you play pretend fight, you fight them off, and then you go back to bed. But you can't just be like sprawled out, all comfy, cozy, ready to go. That's kind of not how any of those training events went. So I'm just really used to just sleeping right in that seat, and it's really comfortable for me. So that's kind of the route I'm gonna go for that. Let's get into the modifications. I installed almost all of this myself. The only thing I didn't do myself was the gears and then the bushings. All right, so we're starting to install this lift. Got all the parts laid out. We got the rear track bar, shocks, the heavy duty coils. This is all in the front, so we got our front and lower and upper control arms, front springs, shocks, track bar. Here, so you can see sway bars disconnected, front track bars off. We got it on both jack stands. Worked on the rear here last night. Just have to install this track bar here. Got new shocks, tie rod, bump stocks, springs, lower upper control arms. So we've done quite a bit here. And then I need to torque everything down. So it says you're supposed to wait till the full weight of the vehicle is on the ground before you start torquing things up. So these are all the old parts. Issues with the alignment. So once you lift it up 3.5 inches, like the steering wheel's turned way to the wrong way, right? And you can fix that by turning this little knob here on the drag link. So this thing right here. So you just loosen that. But this looks exactly the same as this. So at first I thought it was this. So I'm down here turning this thing, but this is the tie rod. And when you adjust this, it changes the toe on your tires. So basically whatever alignment I did have, I ruined it, and these were pointed way in. I was like, why the hell isn't the steering wheel moving, and my tires are all messed up. I was like, oh snap, I'm not supposed to turn the tie rod, I'm supposed to turn the drag link, which is the upper one. So I went back out here and I just kind of eyed it. I turned the tie rod back and we got the tires basically aligned. We have a slight toe here, but I'm gonna get it professionally aligned anyways when I go get the gears done. So they'll fix this and make it perfect, but it drives pretty well for now. And I got the steering wheel straight again too, so you'll see that. And here the steering wheel looks pretty good. So we're making real progress, guys. This has been pretty cool. These are all the old parts. My girlfriend here with some cabbage.
I found the culprit.
Oh, it's a slug on our cabbage. What are you doing? Sure. Basically a company that will send them to you already mounted and balanced. I forgot what it's like, Trails Off-Road or something like that, but they'll send you everything all ready to go. And so that's actually really valuable. So that way you don't have to get the tire and rim separate. They take up a ton of space. Then you got to set up an appointment or whatever to go to a 4x4 shop and have them kind of, you know, do all that stuff for you. And then you got to figure out how to fit all that stuff, you know, in whatever vehicle you're going to try to fit in. So having them already like mounted and balanced and show up at your door, that's a huge thing. So for me, that was extremely valuable. But the first thing we'll talk about is our lift. So we went with the Clayton 3.5 inch lift. I just went with Clayton because I heard good things about Clayton. They have a good lift kit that provides all the stuff that you're going to need. So we have our adjustable lower control arm there. We have our upper control arm there that's also adjustable. Same in the rear, we have our lower adjustable control arm, our upper adjustable control arm. These adjustable sway bar links, which I actually don't like them at all because you have to cut them to size. So that actually is really time consuming. But right down there below that you can see the adjustable track bar. So it comes with one in the front and there's one in the rear. There's our track bar in the rear. Obviously the lift is it's lifted up by a stiffer, more heavy duty spring. So that's that spring down there. But I went with a heavier duty spring so you can see how there's more coils at the top. And the reason I did that is just because I didn't want to have any sagging in the rear. I think that looks kind of bad. It doesn't look very good. And I know I'm probably gonna have a decent amount of weight sitting in the back here, just with all my gear and all my stuff. So I went with the heavy duty springs. They weren't that much more, so I think it was definitely a win there. So next we did the 1350 Adams drive shaft. So you can see the one in the front there, and then the one in the rear there. In the rear you can still see the sticker on there. Next, I re-geared. to 4.88, and the reason I didn't go up to The reason I didn't go up to 510 or 513, I forgot what the number is just because the splines are really, really small on that. And from what everybody's told me, it's just really not necessary to go that high. And so we went to 488s. I've been driving it around for a while now and we got plenty of power. So I'm not really regretting that decision at all. I think it was a good decision. I also had them install the bushings, the heavy duty bushings, and that was just because I didn't have I think you need like this press tool or whatever, and I think you can rent the tool, but I just didn't want to do all that. I was like, hey, if it's already with you guys doing the gears, can you just do the bushings too? So you can see the new bushings right there. So 37 12.5 Mickey Thompsons. These are the Baja Boss. These are, I've been running these for a long time. Really happy with these just because they have kind of like an aggressive tread here on the outside, but then they have more of an all-terrain tread here in the middle. They have a lot more of these slits that give me a lot more traction when you're on ice or kind of like any kind of flat snow. So, and the all-terrain is kind of like a harder tire. It's not as soft as a mud terrain, so you usually seem to get a little more just a little more life out of it. Oh, and then I forgot, we also did the Bilstein 5160 shocks, and these are like a budget shock. They have the dual reservoir, which is nice. It was a little bit more work to install these versus like just a monotube shock without the dual reservoir, because you have to kind of use this whole little mounting kit, and then I had to figure out how to use this other like weird setup to try to like spread out the threaded insert like a drywall screw but for steel. So that took me a second to figure out. But other than that, I mean, these shocks seem fine. They're nothing crazy. They're probably, you know, I'd rather go with like a 2.5 just for how big these tires are, but you know, just wasn't really in the budget to go with some fancy shocks. So for all four of these shocks, it was only about $1,000. So that's pretty good for 4 shocks, you know. So nothing fancy, nothing crazy, but just good enough for now. The wheels here, we went with the KCM tanks, and I just love the way these look. And then I liked how the color here kind of matches the gray of the Jeep. And then finally got a real bead lock, so I can actually, like I said, you know, if we're gonna use this thing for rock crawling, then I wanna be able to deflate as low as I can so I can get as much traction as possible. So on the ZR2, I don't have a real bead lock. Those are just protection rings. So it's not like a true bead lock or anything. It came with this little Rhino step kind of rock slider, I guess. I might change this out. I don't really know, but we'll kind of see how it goes. I mean, it's working okay now. I don't really want to spend money on things that I don't really need, so I'll kind of just take it out and start to figure out, hey, this is something I really need. And then you kind of figure it out as you go. How many times you go out, you go wheeling, you go camping, you just kind of figure out what do I actually care about, and that's kind of the best way to know. You know, you can watch a video and be like, oh, you need this, this, and this, but really you should just go out and do it, and then it'll become very apparent to you what you actually want and what you actually should spend money on. Case I'm going to use from all my tools and stuff, so I'm going to bring this with me everywhere I go on all my trips. How I decide what tools I'm going to bring with me on a trip, it's basically whatever tool I've ever used to install anything on this vehicle ever, I bring all that with me. So that's kind of how I decide that. See, we actually got, there's Savannah, she's over there hiding. But we actually got quite a bit of space back here. Those seats, they just lay down basically flat on their own. So the plan is just whatever I can fit in here, that's what I'm bringing. And if it doesn't fit, then I don't bring it. So it's really gonna force me to kind of think a lot about, you know, well, what am I bringing? Why am I bringing it? Do I really need it? And so that's the plan. Pretty excited, guys. We're going to be releasing the Oregon video here in about a week, and then I'm also going to Ouray in a week, and that'll be kind of the first run for this Jeep. The problem is when you go and get new gears, there's basically a warm-in period, and like they were telling me it's 1,500 to 2,000 miles. And that warm-in period is basically city driving, so, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of driving. You really shouldn't be doing any four-wheel driving on it, and you can't be doing like long distance highway driving. I'm supposed to leave for that trip on Friday, so I'm basically at 5 days to try to get like 1,000 miles of city driving in. So that's gonna be kind of difficult. But yeah, guys, excited to try this thing out in Ouray. Oh, also, if you guys, you know, thought this content was useful to you or any of that, and you want to help us support the channel, leave the video a like. And if you want to see more stuff like this and all my adventures with this Jeep, then consider subscribing. We don't post a video every week, but I try to put a lot of effort into my videos, so they take me a lot of time to film and edit. So, you know, that means you don't get a video every week, but I try to do one every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. So, or as my life will allow.
Yeah, and that's free time away from me, so you guys better like this stuff.